All right, so the second part of this exercise is to come up, or rather fill out how I'm going to calculate float. And float is, they have three formulas for float on page 57. And actually, just this time we're calculating total float. It can equal the late start minus the early start is a way of calculating total float, or total float equals the late finish minus the early finish. Or, and it's not because I like the complicated things. The reason I like this one is because this one's much more effective for what we'll do later on in precedence networks. So what I have here is the late finish minus the duration minus the early start. And that's what we'll be calculating over here in this column. I'm actually going to switch colors right here, but if you want to follow along, these are given on page 57. So for the network, or the example I just gave, for example, I need to copy down the durations right here. So activity A has a 2-day duration, activity B has a 6-day duration, C 10, D 4, E 7, F 5, G 3, H 5, and I 2. The early start dates we calculated on the top left of each box right there. Okay, so for activity A, the early start was 0. The early finish was the top right on the box, that was 2. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the box here. Late start was 0, late finish was 2. So this is top left, this is top right, bottom left, bottom right. Okay, if you're looking for the placement on the square. We'll tackle this last column as the last part of this exercise. Activity B, early start was 2, early finish was 8. Late start was 4, late finish was 10. C was early start of 2, early finish of 12, late start of 2, late finish of 12. D was early start of 2, early finish of 6, late start of 15, late finish of 19. Activity E was given as the early start of day 8, early finish day 15, late start of day 10, late finish of day 17. F was an early start of day 12, an early finish of day 17. Same thing for the late start, late finish. Those were both the same. So you will notice that when the early start and early finish match the late start and late finish, there will be something in the way we calculate float here that might make everything sink in. You do need to know how to do both for the test. Activity G is 12 and 15 and 19 and 22. H would be 17 and 22 and 17 and 22. And activity I think everybody by now should know that this is a critical activity, 22 and 24, 22, 24. If I take this latter formula right here of total finish, let's see if that can be seen a little bit better, equals the late finish minus the duration minus the early start. If we apply that to A, let's see what we get right here. So the late finish is 2, the duration is 2, the early start is 0. So 2 minus 0 is 0. Do this with the second example. Late finish is 4, the duration is 6. Excuse me, the late finish is 10, the duration is 6, and the early start is 2. That gives us a float of, what do we say here? 10 minus 6 minus 2, right? So that gives us a leftover float of 2 there. Same thing here, 12 minus 2 minus 10-day duration is 0 float for that one, right? Activity D, if I take the late finish of 19, subtract the 4-day duration, and the early start of 2, that takes away 6. I get 13 days of float for activity D. Activity E, I take 17 minus the duration of 7, that gives me 10, minus the 8-day early start, that gives me 2 days afloat on that one. 17 minus 5 minus 12, that gives me 0 days float. 22 minus 3, 19 minus the early start, this should be 7 days afloat, right? 22 minus 5 minus 17, 0. 22 minus 2 minus 22, 0. Okay, so what I have here is 0, 2, 0, 13, 2, 0, 7, 0, and 0. The activities that have 0 total float also happen to be the same activities that I identified as critical. And what that just basically verifies what I found in the first diagram right there, was that these activities are in fact critical. They have no wiggle room, no float. These other activities right here, this activity B, I got about 2 days to play with on that activity before it becomes critical. Activity, D, which I'll show you the diagram in a second right here, but I got all kinds of wiggle room to play with that activity right there. I can put it off for a couple of days and it doesn't adversely affect the duration of the entire schedule at all. So 13 days float makes the activity a lot more flexible. The ones I highlighted, again, to underscore what I was trying to communicate the first time, these activities have absolutely 0 wiggle room. I either hit that 2-day duration or I delay the entire schedule. I either hit this 10-day duration or I delay the entire schedule. So just to underscore D here, the difference between a critical activity and a non-critical activity. Activity D, remember, has 13 days afloat. It's actually this activity down here is activity D. Okay, and you'll look at the early start date of 2, the early finish of 6, late start of 15, late finish of 19. I got all kinds of play in that activity before it gets bumped into this critical category right here. All these activities, A, C, F, H, and I, those are all critical activities. I cannot deviate from the specified duration unless I want to shorten it without adversely affecting the duration of the entire schedule, or if we're talking about a construction reference, the entire project.